Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm going to look at this artist edition. This is the Jim Lee, the limited edition one, with what is it? With Omega Red on the cover of X-Men number 5, right? So here we go. I'm gonna get right into this. I was iffy. Thing is kind of in a weird box, but as you can see, I have to bust it out of the corner. Let's get it out of here and let's go through it. There we go. Look at the spine there, the back of it. Sorry. Here we go. Look what I'm going through to show this. It's crazy, right? So here's the cover, right? Here we go. Right? So what the images to start on. And this other one of the early issues, Jim Lee drew, and it's signed and numbered, right? And I, at one point, thought of not opening it up, but as you can see, I opened it up, right? I think all thanks to the people who own pieces of this. Now, this is an artifact edition, so it's not full issues. Oh my gosh, goodness. I think I need to get another one of these so I can rip out the pages. But I don't know if I'll be able to do that, right? So here we go. It's not gonna all be Jim Lee and Scott Williams, but Scott Williams does the open, but we'll see different people inking Jim Lee's work, right? So we have Dan Green, who was the inker, finisher throughout for a long period, for the whole, from, what is it? Even before that. By the time, I believe it's like, maybe like 180 till right when Jim Lee and Scott Williams, I guess his last issue was like in the 260s. So that's a very long period to be the guy, who was inking John Romita Jr., Mark Silvestri, obviously Jim Lee here. I don't know if he inked Rick Leonardi, but that'd be something to look into, right? So I remember this issue because I'd seen Jim Lee around, and I was like, well, this doesn't look like the Alpha Flight covers, but it's good, right? Wasn't a fan of the reverse. This is back in the, what is that called? I call this the Marvel Mercenary period. And of course, Mercenary was a hot Punisher, G.I. Joe, the Nam. So the X-Men had to fight mercenaries, right? So one of the other things you can see here is that the style of writing, right? So this is similar to when Byrne did the shot of the X-Men on the Imperial Guard, with the Imperial Guard, where you see them all reacting, but with Jim Lee, they just look tough and menacing, right? So, but one of the things that allows you to do as a writer, since there's nothing really specific as far as their reactions, is that you fill the page with dialogue so as a reader, you get to stay on this page and see how cool it is and see all the bits that are there at the same time. So I think for anyone who's kind of like the image type of artist, like it just it felt like this was a good synergy of Jim Lee's art and Chris Claremont's writing, because you had these cool shots and a lot of space, so you can put a lot of cool dialogue here, a lot of that sort of thing. And this is the Lady Mandarin story, right? Where Psylocke gets her sort of Kitty and Wolverine moment where she learns to becomes an assassin and takes Elektra, or you could say, who's that? Elektra's outfit, or you could say Miss Marvel's outfit, whichever one you think it looks closer to. This is, I'm not sure if they worked together before this, but Scott Williams inked this stuff here. You see a nice zip on this stuff. And obviously Jubilee. This is a flashback here, but the character's losing against Psylocke. And then this is something else. This is Jim Lee and Willis together. Now, a lot of people are iffy on this issue, and it's like, like Storm as a kid versus Widowmaker. We got Gambit. I couldn't really see what to deal with this character, but then once you see this book, you get to see how cool it is. Some nice effects here, right? This sort of rendering here. You can see the renderings with a different type of ink. Same like here to the main inks. So you got Willis. I think you have Scott Williams too. It's like everyone is the whole Homage Studios on these 2 pages, right? And this is kind of where Storm was going to be, at least in my opinion, that she was going to be young throughout, right? And here's another cool one with the team, the Homage team. So you got Jim, you got Willis, and you got Scott Williams. So I think it's Jim Lee doing layouts, Willis doing the finished pencils, and Scott Williams doing inks. Right? And I don't think after this, once they get back in the X-Men, these two don't hang out at all. Like they kind of move on from each other, right? And we see Gambit get caught. And we see we get to see a flashback. Like see the regular panels, then they get the curved panels, so the flashback of changing how I guess Chris Claremont saw the Widowmaker. I think that's Widowmaker, right? And turning someone to a child, right? It was Nanny, and then this character is Widowmaker. So Nanny is the egg, and Widowmaker is that character. I think created by so then here we have the big one, and that's one of the hard things of where it's going to be printed. But let's kind of move this. Ooh, I don't even know if you guys have seen anything. All right, so let's move this like this. You get to see that. And this storyline was a bit that Stern and Byrne were going to do. They were going to have Captain America recognize Wolverine from the past. So it's one of those storylines that kind of didn't get done by them. So Chris Claremont did it because I believe that Jim Lee asked the classic way to write comics. What do you want to draw? He said, I like to draw Captain America and Black Widow. So he came up with a story with all of them in it, right? And everyone looks at this as the pinnacle. I think me and a friend of mine, we loved the first one even more. And then the present day story with the past story, right? So you have a little more open in the present, in the past. And Jim Lee, since there was a big leap in between stuff in issues, it was like, does he actually want to do the X-Men? But then when you hear it from him, he says how it was his dream job, right? So you get a lot of cool stuff. The drawing is just amazing, right? And you can see this would consider to be early, but he's got a lot of ability to kind of, do some characterization here as far as acting here. You see it less and less, but kind of where the comic book industry went. So then we have Art Tiber take over the inks, and this is one of the storylines that I was kind of I was iffy on the fact of Rogue being separated from Carol Danvers, because if she's separated, she shouldn't have her powers, and that would cause her to have to steal people's powers all the time, and that's leads you to more story, but you don't want to get rid of her strength and whatnot. And you got Shadow King here, comes back from X-Men 117, and then she's surviving there with her superpowers and whatnot. But then you have Carol Danvers, who's separated from her mind as her own entity. And this Carol Danvers gets captured and gets turned, right? And it leads to a big battle where Rogue almost dies. But we get to this shot. Oh man, I don't know how this one's coming to come out. I don't. This is as high as it goes. All right, so let's just keep going. Let's see. Move it over a little. I don't know how people do this. And then you get this. Oh yeah, that's another shot I liked. Kid Storm, and she'll be a whole lot sneaky. We're trying to show her being a little better at fighting than Jean for some strange reason. Then we have Extinction Agenda, where we get to see Jim Lee do Warlock, and I think this is Boom Boom, and I think this is Stevie Hunter. That's Richter, obviously. I think Wolfsbane was and then this is, I think, he has the same issue. We have Richter and Boom Boom without their powers running away, but we got the Dark Knight and Carrie Kelly, Wolverine, and it's Dark Knight, Carrie Kelly, and what's the name? And what's the name? Elektra. This is clearly the Dark Knight period for Wolverine. The Wolverine is all messed up. And the classic drop red lines. I think I need to use, so those are the red lines. So you would color in here and you would get rid of the red lines. So you'd have a silhouette, right? That's as much as I can tell you guys. Art-wise, I can tell you what, gutters. Oh no. I think the only other gag I got is Steve Rude said, they asked him, why does he keep sending the pages in with numbers? Like, you don't need to write the numbers of the pages. Then he sent it in, and he without the numbers, and he reordered the pages. And he said, all right, we get it. So we have another Dark Knight and Carrie Kelly scene with Wolverine and Elektra down here. And then this shot here, that was just like, I was wowed. It was really, this can't be the same issue. This has to be the issue after. Is this still 271 or 260 with the first one? Right? So Wolverine's attack is a cool thing. Wolverine's finish doesn't get any light. So that's one thing you have to remember when you do Wolverine. He gets these cool shots, but sometimes he winds up, getting knocked out. And Psylocke powers always work weird. Like, she's a telepath. She can control minds, but she doesn't always do it, right? And then we have, this is his first foray in doing all of the characters, right? And I was surprised his Jim Lee had a little more Neil Adams in it, right? It has most of the characters all there. And somehow they have some sort of thing to erase the X-Men's information, which I don't think they ever had before, but you know, what can you do? Then we have, I think this is something that was developed in the late 80s that Angel and Wolverine had a rivalry. Angel just thought this guy was crazy, right? And he's just there to kind of tell you that Wolverine is insane, right? So then they turned it into that Wolverine has more chance with Jean than Angel for some strange reason, right? And that's how he has this hate for Wolverine, which is ridiculous. It was just that he's a homicidal maniac, and it would take some time for them to start working together, but it just built the other way, right? Now, Angel is my favorite character, and since no one was going to write him in such a way to show that he's way faster than Wolverine with his wings, so he could put up a fight against Wolverine, but at the same time, no one would write him like that. So I was glad he got the metal wings so he could fight, right? And here, I think I pointed this out before. This is a classic image style shot, right? Cool, two cool shots. But this is the key that's missing in the image work, is having someone to sort of decorate this art with beautiful captions and dialogue, right? Because it's basically two quick panels, right? Nothing's really going on here. It's not really a fight, but it's slow. You're down. It's a lot of cool stuff. And the way Chris Claremont was doing it, he was clearly showing you like very cool shots, like that these are cool shots, and adding as much bits as he can to a basic setup where he just says there, right? And telling you what happened here, this explosion, all the stuff needs to be added in here because there's no setup to it. And sometimes it's right at the middle of the page, so you're not sure what's going on here. But it's a cool shot nonetheless, right? Telling you stuff that you wouldn't know about the electromagnetic pulse, this sort of thing. All these bits you would never know, right? I think Shield Strike Force, which was reported about in the news, gets taken out quickly, right? It says UN here, like that sort of stuff, right? Then we have the mutates, and this is classic. The mutates start to tell you how bad Wolverine was, right? They come and attack, cool fight scenes, and they said, remember, no creator. And Rogue tries to use her power. It doesn't work. But we see Zaladane with this, and they were looking like to be the next big villains. And Rogue doesn't have any power at this point with Magneto fixing her. And after getting taken a beat down, well, this is a hologram of Magneto. He's over there because he was worried about the Russians and everyone trying to kill him. And then we jump forward to Jean and Scott seeing the new X-Men transported away, and then we get run into Deathbird, right? So this is kind of going back to the Dave Cockrum stuff, right? So we got Deathbird, we got the Starjammers, a nice cool splash page for the Starjammers. And like Jim Lee kind of went to the stuff that really worked in Byrne's sort of early stuff, that he would have these big splash pages, and where Byrne was kind of moving more towards trying to give you as much story as possible. This is double sized, so you get to get this cool shot here. This story is kind of wacky because it's like, Deathbird, even though she comes in looking like evil, she's it's going to change. And then we missed a cool shot of Wolverine against Deathbird. But we have Professor Xavier. If Xavier was able to walk, he'd be taller than most of X-Men. He is like a man of action. That's so great to see him. What he would be like as if he ever was able to if he wasn't crippled. That's what I want to say, right? So it's cool to see some of the effects that he could have done a Nam type of story, right? There's a leftover Nick Fury Punisher graphic novel that Jim Lee was supposed to do. One of the other great works that never got done, right? And Rogue needs, and you can't tell this is Rogue, but I think the color will be white here, that she needs armor because she can't really do anything, right? But one of the things that kind of was lost when you go into the 90s is that this sort of filling the page up with dialogue would be thought of as going too far, right? You kind of encumbering the artwork, where I think this works perfectly. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things needed to be said. A lot of bits, some nice sort of thing. It was like having him saying, "Looking quite the man of action, Charles. 'Tis a joy to see you once more." And he says, "No less showing than to behold a lot of you." And then he said, "And hard but wonderful reminder of how much I miss my school and my X-Men, and in the original uniforms. That too, Now that's a treat. See, this is who are these new faces? So it's a really good moment here, right? Then Magneto and Zaladane scene where it goes bad. Now this took at least 5 issues to make Wolverine go bad, like 5 stories. It took a New Mutants arc. It took X Factor Annual. It took Acts of Vengeance, and then ultimately this, right? So that's 4 stories. So I overcounted, right? But it was a New Mutants arc. So this is kind of the coming out party for these 2 characters, right? Because they do a lot in this storyline, and they're kind of like Jim Lee characters, right? Right, so we see them again. We see Leah Cheney, and then we see him be able to do the Nightcrawler / long shot stuff for some reason. And them fighting Gladiator somehow. And we get another jump away from a couple of cool Wolverine pages that we missed. But we got a storm, and we see Kassar shoot Storm in the face. And Leah Cheney finds out where the heroes are being held. And we see Xavier here. Oh, man. Right, and another Xavier. Oh. And this was a wacky one because it was the Skrulls, right? It was a wacky one, but fun nonetheless. And oh my goodness, the triptych, is this the triptych? Oh my goodness. I can't do it. Sorry, y'all. That's as much as I can give you. Yep, gotta buy another one so I can rip this out and put it on my wall. All right? There you got Magneto there. It's crazy. I forgot. I didn't even look at this. I don't remember opening this up. And then, of course, we go the other way. We got the triptych, which I think, that's why I redid this one. Good Lord. It's just too much. So you see that there. That's why I always say Storm would have been young. Colossus, he wouldn't have been there. And we had to figure out if Rogue was one. I'm not sure if he would have been there either. But let's keep going, right? Get I think this was an ad promo piece. Return that to Jim Lee. And then we have these characters who we don't know who, the space battle, the Star Wars thing. We don't know what's going on. And they run into Big Dog Magneto, right? Bring this down to figure out. It's just too much. Can I go further out? No, that's not it. That's about it right there. Sorry. All right. So we have Magneto. Excuse me. This is either John Romita or Bill Sienkiewicz uniform. We're not giving the blame to John Romita Jr. Nope, not at all. Right? So we got these cool Magneto shots. Right? And the government trying to figure out what's going on with them. And the X-Men coming to start to do their thing. Let's put it right here. I'm trying. Get this nice training sequence. Xavier's back. All right. It just showcases everyone. It's kind of taking a note from the original X-Men #1, where we have a Danger Room sequence. It has the classic "Bang, You're Dead" thing, and we got all of the pages from X-Men #1. Look at this, right? I like this one a lot, and this is cool. And here's where Rogue and Gambit have their times. Gambit's totally forgotten Storm, right? Some old sort of back and forth between Scott and Wolverine. And then Nick Fury says, what about Magneto? Right? So here, that's what I'm saying. I got to keep spelling out to you guys. We got a nice boring page. Fill that out with some dialogue. Because we're not going to get this story out of here anyway. And I just did Alan Moore. I just showed you Alan Moore. Would have a ton of exposition explaining you the heavily dense story that's there. Right? Nice shot here. This is really nice there. Setting up the mansion. Right. Back to Magneto. All the Magneto stuff. That action is... Has that happened yet? Oh yeah, so they hint to you that Magneto needs to go back to action. They call humans flat scans, right? Forge makes a new Forge and Banshee are now the tech guys. And Magneto decides, I'm gonna get some nuclear weapons just in case they want to attack. And the X-Men come, right? Yeah, this is just, I don't know. I think the kayfabe guys looked at this issue and they tore it apart. It's just fun. Like, look at that. So here, he kind of adds in some bits, right? He adds in some bits here to give you some storytelling, right? The Wolverine is saying some things, but he's just trying to kill him, right? Then Magneto has this one. This is a great moment here where all the dead bodies in the submarine and Wolverine, they're just coming in. And then Rogue goes in to kind of do the soft touch. She gets hit by, gets hit. And that, of course, is a constant reaction of Magneto being pushed to be the bad guy. That was Chris Claremont's angle on it, right? And Rogue winds up in a hospital in Genosha, right? Of course, it's the best place to be found, and the acolytes come, and this is the other thing that was the fuel to the X-Men, right? You kind of come up with some Alpha Flight type characters. Now I say that to say they would find 4 to 5 characters for the X-Men to fight, right? And this is the fuel to it. Whereas I think Byrne, after doing that, I think you can see it a little differently when he did the New Brotherhood, where he came up with a couple of new characters, but try to make them, 3 new characters, but try to make them a little bit different than what he had before, even though they had some Fantastic Four elements. In that framework of doing Alpha Flight and the New Brotherhood, even though it was done before with the original Brotherhood, having sets of characters for the X-Men to fight, and not, I think the Cochrane one, they came up with the Animen, came with 2 extra ones of those guys so they could fight the X-Men. And then to fuel them, you had to just come up with another group of people to fight. And that's what would happen in X-Force. X-Factor has I think the Mutant Liberation Front. So it wouldn't necessarily be new characters, but just a new set of villains for them to fight, right? In this one, there's a bullet. He catches some sort of shell. He catches a shell in midair. This character come out with the density of adamantium. Density matters to what? And Wolverine goes after him. And this was they came in searching for Magneto. Or here we go, right? This is the classic. I call it Image, but it would have been the Image. It's just how you handle a page like this. It's gorgeous. And this, them going against each other, and you get a lot of dialogue, but at the same time, there's like 5 characters on this page. You need to kind of have something here, and you also need to get this information here. This is some heavy stuff, and you're not gonna have too much time for what's the name, right? So Magneto is back in business, fully bad. So yeah, I guess it is. This is the other one. He killed someone, but he hadn't gone fully bad. He was just hanging out by himself, right? And I thought the other double splash page was here, but it's not, right? But Magneto just comes to the mansion and takes Mora, and it's had this whole setup here that she did something bad, which I don't think they should have done, but And they don't got much issue 2. But for some reason, this was supposed to be the beginning of X-Men #1, where there'd be simulations of fights, and you see Scott and Storm kind of make us assessments, right? That was, I think, Chris Claremont's original idea. And they turned it into something different. Then issue 3, he's messing with Mora, right? And realizes that Fabian is messing with him, right? And The X-Men have gone through some sort of mind altering thing. So the gold team comes to save the day. And slowly the X-Men come out of it, right? And right here, after Chris Claremont leaves, you have a big jump. So we have, like, I think 3 scripters here, right? So the other one that was more collaboration, Byrne is coming on here as just a scripter. He's not really putting too much stuff in as far as the plot, right? And I was just really surprised by this scripting because as a reading Byrne stuff, I was pretty much used to his style, but there was bits here that had me on the floor. And this Diddums missed his Diddums missed his shot. I fell out on the floor. There's some cool stuff here, right? And getting the beats back to his old dialogue, right? There's always a lot of Gambit in this thing, right? And here is my favorite part of the dialogue, right? It's like saying where John Byrne calls Jim Lee's favorites the Junior League. Said, want a Soul Squad? Can't be. Those are the Junior League. Not skilled enough to hit like this unless it came without. No, there's the big kids, and they got the walking light show with them. Probably think they can keep from being killed, keeping them close at hand. Too bad for them. We're out of here, and they're dead. Logan, this that sort of like Byrne was seemingly to be having fun, but it seemed like, but the actuality didn't, because he was getting things very late. But I think he was doing really. It was really surprised. They got him to sign this too. That's crazy, right? I think that's all we have from Byrne. We go into 6, and we have Scott Lobdell doing the scripting. And for me, it was and Jim Lee isn't doing full pencils. That's the name's doing the finishing. This would lead him to feel he could draw the book himself, right? And I think for me, it was tough that kind of lost the voice that Byrne was giving them, because even though it wasn't exactly like Chris Claremont, they were in character, right? For the characters we knew, right? Let me set this here. Once again, Jim Lee does breakdowns. T-Bear is doing finishes. Sorry, guys. So I don't even remember that he was doing breakdowns, right? But this stuff seems a little softer here. It's still cool, right? Jim Lee getting to do Bishop. And Bishop sees someone he remembers. Wolverine looking at his past. And then this moment, even though it didn't feel like a Scott moment, we didn't get to see Psylocke coming out the water, right? And get his past, which is similar to Nightcrawler, where he kills someone in self-defense. We got the flip over, which I'm not flipping over, the Brood taking over. The Ghost Rider was a little too much for me, right? Because there's no real coming back from being, being the Brood, right? But there's always these, these nice poster shots in here. And then that's it. Issue 11. And the rest are covers. So we didn't have some of the shots, the killer shots that were in these issues, but covers are no less good. And this Omega Red kind of went on a little too long, but And then this was, I think, Amazing Heroes. I think it was Amazing Heroes, right? And Jim Lee was saying he got the cool characters, and he got Wolverine with a man bun, going too far. And here's some stuff which I think we've been deprived of. Jim Lee doing his own inking. Right? This cover here, Jim Lee inks these great shots, all inked by Jim Lee. I think we should have gotten time to see how his own inking would have worked. Right? The Mutant Liberation Funk, never looked better. Front. This is the new Brotherhood. All right. And another cool shot. So there you go. Did it. Oh, cracked it open for you guys. Hope you liked it. Ooh, my goodness. 45, almost 45 minutes. So spin a rack out.